All right. Hey, everybody. What's happening? It's Ed O'Keefe, and welcome to today's episode. Today, we're going to talk about the instant credibility and authority roadmap for effortless sales. Now, um, one of the biggest questions that I keep getting from people that are interested in either consulting for equity or along the lines of even clients that are already working on consulting deals. One of the biggest questions that we get is like, well, Ed, I don't have the credibility that Roland, and Adam, and you can name anybody like on that thing. But let's talk about Roland Fraser for a moment. The perception is that Roland has all this extra credibility, therefore you, we'll talk about can't create a consulting deal and charge consulting, attract leads, dream clients, and do what he's doing or others are doing. And I would call this the credibility trap or the authority trap. Now, the reason why this is so important, because this actually will go to every single, this question or this kind of, am I good enough? When am I good enough? How do I know I am good enough is really the underlying question, right? And this is something that is very, very relevant in every aspect of life from the perspective of in sports, the teams that are in the, like I've coached volleyball for so many years and been around competition for so many years. But there's always this point in any kind of endeavor or goal where going from where you currently are to where you want to be, there's like this no man's land of like, well, how do I get there, right? And so, where's my book at? I just had it here a second ago. Like, I wrote my book, Time Collapsing, The Art of Speed, Money, Power, and Meaning, because the whole idea behind it was the operating question of how do you get somewhere faster that defies the normal structure of how people get to places, okay? And so, one of the big I guess it's a lie in our society, but it's a trap and it's a construct in our societies that that we have to think sequentially in the context of having authority. And so what I mean by that is you go to preschool, then you go to kindergarten, then you go to first grade, you go to second grade, and you keep doing these like kind of step ladder movements all the way through high school, through college. Now, parents or people that pull their kids out of that structure and they homeschool or they utilize different types of schooling, kind of opt out of that method. And some kids accelerate. And so they could go from fourth grade math to seventh grade math in a very, very short amount of time. And so, but the framework of sequential goal accomplishment and authority, right, which is credibility, comes out of this kind of false belief system that is in our society of like, hey, you need a degree to do this, and then you need a degree to do that. And so what ends up happening is we have this belief systems, humans do this, right? Some of it's good, some of it doesn't serve us, right? Is that every step along the way, we need a certification or we need the waving of the magic wand of approval, right? But the fact of the matter is that I've talked about this in different episodes, is that if you look at the book Winning Through Intimidation, which by Robert Ringer, which came out in the 70s, and then it got renamed Intimidation to Be or Not to Be Intimidated. He drew a line in correlation that all success is the person who's most intimidated, like in every scenario and situation is more likely to come out on the short end of that deal, so to speak. And he talked about this theory called the leapfrog theory, which I embraced at a young age. And I give it almost every single bit of, credit. It was a big factor. Dan Kennedy's the first one who turned me on to it. It was a big factor in me being a young guy to really embrace the idea that I didn't need other people's approval to go accomplish things. And the leapfrog theory states that at any given moment in time, you can self-proclaim and create your own authority to go and do and achieve pretty much anything you want to do. Now, he does say there that if you don't deliver on it, you will be slapped back down to the bottom, which I think is what most people's fear is, right? So then how do we prepare to make sure you succeed when you go down that venture? And let me go through a few things on credibility and authority. There's a lot of ways to borrow credibility and authority. There's a lot of ways to shortcut credibility and authority. But the question in and of itself of like, well, I'm not as good as that person, so I can't do or do what they have. Well, let's say that someone like Roland can charge 25 to 35, 50,000 for a consultation. And let's say you're starting out on consulting. You don't have to put that much pressure on yourself in the beginning would be silly. So it's false expectations, and false expectations of expectation management is like the crux of success in every single endeavor. If you expect yourself to be perfect, you are going to fail at every time, right? So then to expect yourself to have that outcome without even getting your training wheels on and getting in the game and getting in the arena is just really, it's a loser mentality. And I'm not calling you a loser. I'm saying it is a mentality that losers have that keeps them in a box of never attempting anything. Whereas people that are like, well, I'm going to go attempt this, I guarantee I'm going to make mistakes along the way. But if I believe in the model and the pathway and the system, and this is something that excites me and gets me rejuvenated, well, then I'm not going to stop on this pathway. The methods may change, but the pathway I'm committed to. So I know that if I committed to this, and then in 3 months and 6 months and 9 months and 12 months and 18 months, I'll become world-class at it and it will change my life forever. Okay. So that's kind of that's the winner mentality, where we have the expectations that things are not going to be perfect. I will learn along the way. There's a lot I don't know, and I will figure those things out as I go. Okay. So if you separate that, and then the first question you gotta ask yourself, well, what box am I, or what pathway am I going to go on? Am I going to go on the way that I don't start until I know the entire system perfectly? Am I going to go on the pathway of everything has to be like laid out for me and I need to know every single bit now? That is guaranteed to fail. That is guaranteed to fail in every single way. Like the reason why we compete in life is because we want to see how am I good enough to go against this competition and, win, lose, right? Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. And then I have the opportunity to go back into the training room on Monday or Tuesday and get better at it with my coach, right? That's the cycle of life and feedback. And even like raising kids and trying to help them through that cycle, like every engagement and everything that didn't work out like our expectations. I guess I didn't really ask them to talk about so much about expectations, but if you listen to pro golfers talk about the difference between the pros and the guys who are just keep missing the cut or don't make it, a lot of it has to do with that. The pros are the ones that realize that they're not supposed to hit every shot perfect, and they mature along the way to understanding like they're going to be in bad spots a lot, and that's part of the game. It's their ability to bounce back from that. So anyhow, so let's keep moving here on this topic. So if my expectations are, I'm going to go on a pathway, I'm committed to learning, I'm committed to growing, and I'm committed to like making mistakes along the way. Now, the second thing I want to say is like, let's talk about like a business fundamentals, is that consulting and coaching or higher ticket opportunities place the margins in your favor, meaning you have more room to make error in your marketing and your self-promotion and all these things because your ticket sizes are bigger. So your dollar per hour is bigger. Your future upside is bigger, if you look at it that way. So you're positioning it to win. And we talk about that more on a different episode, and in the training, we go in depth on positioning, but credibility is the question that we want to keep forefront here today. So I'm lacking credibility, lacking authority. The root questions are, am I good enough? Do I have what it takes? And can I deliver? Now, can I deliver? Let's talk about that for a moment. So this is where I'll take you back to when I was just kind of figuring out how to like do things on my own. Direct response marketing, it probably changed my life more than anything because it was the first time I learned that I could send out a message, people can respond, and actually I could get paid. Whether I was selling a product, which my first product was the ultimate, volleyball mental toughness system, the ultimate coaching system for athletes and coaches. And then I realized that I didn't want to stay in those markets because the margins were too small. I was selling $39 products. The market wasn't big enough. I loved it, but I also am motivated by money. I wanted to have a life where I can have things. And one of the mentors I was following at the time, they were selling to business owners, right? And business owners, and specifically, I got a sale coming right now, and I didn't turn off that chat, so let me do that. But let me also finalize that. Boom, let's get that going. What I wanted to be able to do was work with people who had a lot of money, who were spending money on our stuff. This is part of our checklist of the ideal market, right? So, they have money, they're already spending money to solve the problem, right? And then I was able to solve their problem, or my company was, right? And so the problem that we were going to solve was, I fell in love with marketing. I just totally fell in love with it. I could study marketing all day. It was exciting to me. I wanted to improve on it. I knew I could get good at it, but I wasn't great, guys. Like, this is one of the biggest things you gotta understand. I was in a lot of ways making it up as I went. Like, I was learning from Dan Kennedy, Joe Polish, Jeff Paul, and I was just Gary Halbert, all those like legends. And I was just, pushing everything forward and like stumbling forward. I was definitely stumbling forward. If I look back on my initial work, I'd be so embarrassed by it, right? But that's okay, right? That's okay. It got you to the next step. And so when I looked at the market I was in, the market that I wasn't in the market I was in didn't fit the criteria that, say, like Dan Kennedy was saying, you want to be in a hyper-responsive market. They're spending a lot of money to solve a problem. And so the market I ended up choosing were dentists, like doctors, dentists. And the reason I did that is because I did my research into the market. I got all the trade magazines delivered to my house. I did the research in the yellow pages. This is what we used to do back before like the internet. And you notice, they're spending a lot of money. There's a lot of ads selling to dentists on how to get patients, how to grow profits from practice management companies. And so I went into that market. Now, here's the context. I was 25, 26 years old, had zero experience in helping professionals or business owners get results in their business. I had zero experience with it. I had some experience in my information company of selling books and manuals and videotapes. So I believed that I had some success with it, but it wasn't a lot. And there was really, you can't sell like, hey, I sold books, so now I'm going to teach you how to get patients. That would be that would take away my credibility, right? So what I did was I went out and I licensed the rights of someone else's course. I paid, I think, 10 grand up front, and then there's royalties tied to it. I'm not saying go do that, but it was how I borrowed credibility and authority. Now, how clients in consulting for equity can borrow authority, credibility is not only are you getting like the templates and scripts and the roadmaps of getting clients, we're also giving you the frameworks of delivering the consultation. And you're also getting, I should draw a triangle here. You're also getting resources of, like, I think we gave away 52 of Roland's intensives and seminars on every imaginable topic of growing a business, growing profits, growing sales, traffic, how to drive traffic to a business, how to do mergers and acquisitions. You're getting a business in a box. Whereas if you went out and got a franchise, kind of like what I did, is like licensing, as I spent 10 grand plus royalties, it cost me well over 6 figures over a couple of years, right? In that specific business. That's a lot of money, right? And so you're looking for shortcuts and time collapsing. And so one of the first ways, write this down, like on credibility and authority, is you got to ask yourself, how do I borrow it? Okay? How do I borrow it? How do I lean on someone else's while I'm learning this? And so for what I do a lot is I'll say, well, if I was pretending to be, insert your mentor, right? Because this could be in anything. So like for wrestling right now, like if one thing is when I do webinars or do stuff, my wife does have the ability to get a hold of me. And so this is my second interruption during this webinar. I'm doing the training because of our 7 kids. He's the one person I don't shut off. And my kids have access to me as well. Whenever you're trying to, like, this, again, this is in time collapsing again. Whenever I'm trying to leapfrog something, I have to take on the consciousness of the person and the filters to model their, not only their worldview, but also their behaviors. And see, like, once you have kind of a mentor and a model to roadmap out, your only job at that point is to be as literal as possible of the process. And so when the mentor says, hey, you don't need to know everything in the beginning because your brain actually can't even assimilate it because you haven't gotten a client yet. Like, once you get your first 2 or 3 clients, then we're going to show you how to, like, then you're going to have the resource of, okay, I'm going to deliver a world-class experience. And then you do your first consultation, and then that feedback loop starts again, right? And then you gain momentum. You see where you were great. You see, and then you're like, oh, wow, I think I could charge more. Oh, I think I want to go after a better market. So I'm going to position myself here. And the positioning I'll get to in a second, right? But that's more on, like, how to do that is something that we'll cover in a minute, and it'll be effortless for you, because frankly, if you're watching this, I always tell people this, you got to trust yourself more, because you're already on this pathway. You're like, remember, I'll speak about myself since this is my video, but like, my wonderful wife's bringing me a coffee. Thank you. You're the best. But it's like, I had to trust the process. When you have a teenager learning a sport, and I always go to sports, sorry if you don't like sports, but it's kind of been our whole life, is that if you have a coach and a mentor and a model that you believe in, you got to trust the process that they're running you through, because they can see 3 months down the road and you can't, okay? Because they've mapped it out. Like, if you took me and you're like, Ed, we got to map out a 7-month volleyball program for our club season, it would take probably a couple hours with a calendar, but I've already done it so many times that most of our training protocols will be already in place. Well, guess what, guys? That's the same exact thing when you're learning a new process. Specifically, we're talking about consulting and coaching, but your job is not to know what's happening like what specifically you're doing in 3 months. Your job is to, where are you currently at? What gap do you got to close? And then we close the gap on that. Now, in this case, showing credibility and authority. So let's go back to that for a moment. Now, here's the perception that, here's a couple traps. If you believe that you have to get more certifications to become more credible, you are going to go down what I call the certification trap. I'm not saying certifications are bad. There's a lot of coaching programs. Scalable has one where they certify you as a scalable growth consultant, and Fusion's done a great job with that too, where they certify their people. And what that does, I think ClickFunnels might have one now too, I don't know. But where they do it is that person's been through a certain level of training, so their level of deliverability is higher. So therefore, like, it creates some credibility. But at the end of the day, somebody without that certification who asks me a question that opens my eyes and insight to something that I wasn't seeing before is instantly credible. And I don't care where they went to college. I don't care about really too much of their background. Like, I may say, like, well, where did you learn that? My gosh, that was brilliant. And then there's a story behind that. And it could be, well, I have a mentor who taught me this. It could be, well, I started a business from scratch, and we discovered it through like my bankruptcy. Like, you could be like, hey, I mean, my company totally failed, but there's like 5 things that I would have done differently, and here's one of them. And this one thing, if I knew back then, would have saved my entire company. So now you just take your worst case scenario and you turned it into your most credible case scenario, right? Like, yeah, I mean, we can talk about that one too in a second. So there's a lot of ways to do that. But one thing I want to say is, like, Ron Lynch. Now, if you don't know Ron, he's one of my mentors. You should follow Ron. Ron's one of the smartest guys out there. He's a guy called in to do a lot of to script writing, infomercials, but he's a marketing genius. I mean, he's one of my mentors with Travis Sago, in Jordan. Jordan, your last name is escaping me, so give me a second. I'll come back to that. But Ron has a process where he takes like 3 questions. And his 3 questions always open up the, oh my gosh, I mean, like, it's like it creates the problem, and makes the person hyper aware that there's a solution that they're not thinking of. It's kind of, that's his whole model. It's like makes them hyper aware, tracks their, calls out their problem, and then has an open loop question. It's something like, what if there was a way for me to show you how to solve all your chronic pain? I'm making this up, in less than 7 days. And I guarantee you've never tried it before, and it will cost you half of, whatever. You'll never have to spend another penny based on this, right? Or something like that. Like, well, wait a second. I've never heard of this, and I've never heard before. Creates an open loop, which then instantly gets their curiosity. Now, if you're then able to deliver a transformational insight, to use Sago's word, Roland likes to use transformational, Sago uses insight, Roland uses the word transformational moment, that shifts their perception, their worldview into focusing on, oh, wow, I didn't know that before. You don't have to tell them your background. You just created a transformational moment for them, which then instantly makes you more credible, instantly builds authority. When I work with dentists, they all think that sharing all their certifications, and they got trained by this guy, and they went to this school, and they went to this, and here's all the services they do. We call it brand advertising, and all they focus on is the features and their history. And one of the hardest things we got to tell them is that your patients do not care. Your patients do not care whatsoever about any of that stuff. The only thing they care about, first and foremost, is if they're in pain, if they have a problem, and then if you call out their problem or pain. Like, so someone with sleep apnea, like attention, actually, I'll stick with implants because it's what I work with the most, is attention denture sufferers, people that have dentures, they're the best quality candidate for dental implants. And I would say, are you sick and tired of your frustrated, ill-fitting dentures that keep popping out, don't allow you to eat the foods that you love, blah, blah, blah. Would you like to, free local dentist reveals this 3 secrets to having instant, strong, healthy teeth so you can eat your steak, corn, and everything you love once again. Now, the thing is now they request information. Now you're talking about them. So that is what builds authority, credibility, and most importantly, what that builds is empathy and puts you on the path of solving the problem. If you talk only about yourself and you think this whole process is about you, you're always going to be trying to provide more information to impress people. You're always going to think the more I do, the more they're going to want to work with me. But that's not what happens. It's just not. It might be counterintuitive. But if you find yourself trying to prove that you are worthy enough to, whether it's giving free advice, whether it's my wife and I, like, throughout the whole pandemic, had to deal with one of our kids being sick. And so we became super, super experts in long haulers, Lyme disease, and we're still learning, right? But what we found is that anyone we give free advice to, like our friends and family who are like, hey, I got XYZ, what should I do? And they're just there's a very small population of them that actually listen to any advice we give. And we kind of step back and we're like, we're kind of done. We're done giving free advice to people who haven't anteed up to have nothing invested in the process. I know it's a little bit off topic, so I don't want to go too crazy on it. But again, it's like, well, the whole idea here is, how do we create a moment where they go, wow, I never thought of that. Now, there's a lot of ways to do that. Like number one, I love doing videos like this. Why? Because it's natural to me. I could press record, I create a couple notes, boom. You know, I know the basics of, I have a certain architecture of like a sales structure that I would want to utilize in my videos, in my audios, in my books, in my PDFs, so that people want more. That's the goal, right? But it's never chasing people. They're coming to you. And that's the process we start teaching, right? Now, some people like to write. Some people are more introverted, so video's not great for them. However, I will say to you, like one of my good friends, Craig Ballantyne, used to be a really hardcore introvert, still is an introvert, but he made a challenge, I think a couple of years ago, to break out of it. And he does a video every single day, and his business is booming. Like, he's booming. And he made like his thing that he thought was his crutch into his superpower, right? How am I an introvert that's actually now helping business owners succeed in their business? Well, guess what? 40% of the market are semi-introverts. They're going to be attracted to someone like you, right? If you're someone who's like a Tony Robbins type, well, you're going to find that a lot of people that are very visual, very love the rah-rah stuff, are going to be very attracted to you. That is good, but you can't do it hiding behind a wall, right? My favorite way to position somebody, like if a client hires me, is to interview them. It's my favorite way to do it, because if you are somebody who has unique insight, and I don't care, like if you're in our Consulting for Equity program, you are allowed to borrow the insight and wisdom that you get from the experts in the trainings that we provide you, like Roland's templates, my traffic templates, anything we say, you are allowed to borrow that wisdom. When I was learning in the beginning, I used to listen to Joe Polish's Genius Network, and so much of my wisdom, quote unquote, which I don't think you actually have wisdom till you actually turn it into some experience, which guess what? If you're providing value for someone else's business, that is the best form of leveraged wisdom, okay? I mean, this is just very important for you to understand. Like, you will get out helping people, getting paid is the most important way for you to leverage your wisdom. You don't have to go create your own stuff from scratch. Look around you. People need help all the time, okay? They're all around us. They all need help, okay? And the ones who recognize it and they ask questions, and then they're all of a sudden sitting there in front of you, you're going to use the templates that we share, right? It's just great stuff. Yeah, I was on a call last week with one of our clients who was really struggling because he wants to roll up medical practices, and actually his son does that. He was specifically helping doctors exit their practices and replace their income over 5 to 7 years by turning their profits into long-term real estate. And he's got a process for that. And I was explaining that, like, well, there's like 5 ways to immediately increase cash flow inside a dental practice. And here's a couple of them. I go, but I wouldn't, you don't need to become an expert in that, because that's not what you're doing. On your half-day consult, you can ask questions that elicit and open the eyes of the dentist to, oh, wow, I need to fix my front desk. Oh, wow, we need to do a better job of conversion rates. Or, oh, wow, we're spending too much money here. You can help them identify that. But one of the best things you can do is partner with someone like Dr. Bill Blatchford, who that's all they do, right? And that partner of yours, that client of yours, is now going to be making more cash flow, which is going to allow them to put more into the real estate side, which is your domain of expertise, okay? If you're learning a way to do conversion videos for businesses, like say webinars or whatever that convert, you don't need to become a traffic expert. That's the silliest thing in the world. Like, you want to focus on that domain. That domain can keep you very, very busy for 12 to 15, 20 years, because selling via video will always be here. The channels may be modified slightly, but it will always be here, okay? Showing businesses how to find hidden profits right in front of their eyes. I think we have a checklist of 21 ways to do that. It's one of the episodes I'm going to come up with here in a minute. Does not require a lot of, I want to say intelligence. It's actually super intelligent, but you don't need to go get a degree to know how to do that. You just can learn it, and then you're leveraging that wisdom through some clients. Now, you may give some deals to early clients to get your beta testers. That's totally normal. You may go to people that your dream list of like 100 that you'd like to work with, and give them half off on the deal in the beginning to get your momentum, your mojo, and your whatever. But this is how we do it, guys. This is not rocket science, but it is self-belief. It's getting over the lies and stories we tell ourselves that prevent us from being able to go and accomplish our goals. As I like to tell, like in my book, Time Collapsing, I had it around here. Oh, here it is.
It's 11 o'clock.
As I like to tell in the story, is like the first one of the first chapters is the permission. Let's see here. It's called the permission. It's been a while since I've been talking about this. So, I don't know where it went. Where'd it go? But it's early on where we talk about your permission slip. And it's a story I tell about my kids. Like, I had 2 kids when they're younger. We're always late. We're always late for St. Barnabas. We're always late. We're running, but we do a better job now. But like when our first group of kids were, getting to school, we'd be right at the bell, right? And at the end of the first quarter, my daughter had like 13 tardies, where my son had 3. But here's the funny thing. They entered the building at the same time. Think about that. They entered the building at the same time. My son, when I would say to the both of them, like, hey, just go straight to your rooms. Like, don't stop at the office, go straight to your rooms. If your teacher sends you back down, that's fine. My son took that to heart and was like, I don't need a permission slip to get into my classroom. Where my daughter felt like she had to follow the rules and would stop and get the slip. Now, that's a great analogy in life, is like the people in business who get stuff done faster are not looking for authority outside of them to give them permission to go and do what they want to do. And so with this system of you having credibility and authority, there's a lot of ways to do it. You can have a book. One of my best friends, Alexi Neocleus, at Fubi.co. I gotta make sure that's Alexi's one of my best friends. We used to be business partners in a business, and he's a world-class copywriter out of Australia who turned his genius into helping people create their books. And so he built a team, and he understands the value of like, why do you create a book? You create a book to position yourself as an authority. Okay. Fubi.co, FUBBI.co. And just tell Alexi, you can put in the subject line, Edo keeps sending me. He'll take great care of you. They also have a content hacking system where for people looking to build their authority, they can take all your video, like I'm doing a video here, they can take it and turn the content so that I have more emails to send out. I have more posts on my social. Like that's one of the things they do. But you can go to him and in 8 weeks have a book, or 8 to 10 weeks have a book. You can go to Jeremy Weiss. Now Jeremy is, I should be giving you his emails. rise25.com/Jeremy call. That's you can book a call with Jeremy Weiss. rise25.com. And again, he's another guy. Tell him Edo keeps sent you. He'll take great care of you. I'll tell him to give you a discount. But you can have a podcast up within 4 weeks. You can have a podcast up within 4 weeks. And now the way you do it is you take your first 5 episodes, right? And you identify all the problems of your target market. And then you identify all the insights of your target market. Okay? It's very important to understand. Your whole goal of your first 5 podcasts is to open up the insights and the transformational moments of your level 10 ideal dream client. Okay? Now, there is a structure in that. We don't have time in this training to go into the structure on how to specifically do that. But the positioning alone, our society is becoming very, very attuned to, hey, if you're on a podcast, you're an expert. If you have a book, you're an expert. Oh, wow. If I do a YouTube video channel and I take the podcast and I put it up on YouTube, guess what? People, it consumes more of a consumption, right? More consumption. Now, something I like to do personally is I like building out a case study. So this would be number 4. Now, here's the funny thing about case studies. Because a lot of new companies do this all the time. You do not have to be the executor of all the results in the case study. You can borrow other people's examples. Talk about myself, talk about Roland, talk about Alexi, talk about like if you did something, I'll give you a quick example. If you wanted to target the event people doing seminars, right? And then you went and you were like, I'm going to be partners with Deanna Rogers. Deanna is one of our coaches and one of our partners in Consulting for Equity. And then Pete Vargas. Pete's an amazing guy. I'll give you his website here too. Pete is a guy who when the pandemic set in, all the shutdowns happened, Pete did something amazing where I might be spelling his name wrong. So let me get this for you. Yeah, Platform Tour. He was one of the first ones to do virtual events and just destroy it. Like everyone was shutting down their businesses. He saw the moment of opportunity. Like, we're not going down. We're going to turn this into a opportunity to be transformational. And so he helped all these people become, through his virtual stuff. Well, then Tony Robbins is hiring him. All these people are trying to hire him. You can find him at advanceyourreach.com. And then again, reach out to him. But okay, let's say I'm targeting event planners, right? I have no experience in event planning, okay? Or guys who do events. I've done events, so that's not fair for me to say that. But let's say it's you, and you just create a little case study of how Pete transformed and built all these profitable systems into for guys running seminars right now, and how Deanna Rogers is helping people with making their events more profitable. Those are the two case studies, right? Roland does this as well, but I'm gonna stick with these two for a moment. And you just created a case study based on their stories, right? And those leads came in, and you did a free consultation or free where you listen to them. And then you're like, hey, I believe we can partner with you. And then you tie that to Pete and Deanna. That would be like, you would instantly be an authority and an expert in that area. Deanna and Pete will always take more leads, right? So you're solving their problem. It's not a problem, but like everyone takes more leads, especially if they're good referred ones. And now you're an authority instantly because you chose to go into a market. Okay. I can go on and on about this one, but like the other side of this too is like you go find somebody like our friend Kent Clothier, who I'm going to have on the podcast very soon. Kent is an expert in real estate. Now Kent has an event coming up that was just on his site, and Kent's a friend of mine. But let's say I wasn't friends with Kent. You can go to his event for like $1,000, right? And you can look at every single speaker that's up there. And you can identify what are they trying to sell. And then you're listening to all the students. You're finding, what are their problems? And I'm like, oh, what if I just created a cheat sheet solving all the problems of all the attendees? And now I have all the speakers over here. And I become a guy who just creates a landing page, generates a cheat sheet, has a little podcast. I can do it for free on YouTube, solving every single one of those problems. And then I become a referral partner there. But people will want to hire me directly because they want shortcuts and timelines. So I can go on and on about this, guys. You can use Facebook groups, right? We use it. We use all these methods, right? We use podcasts at O'Keefe Show. Rowan has the Business Lunch podcast. The book, I've written a book. We have a new book coming out. We have the podcast, the live streams. This was supposed to be a live stream, but I clicked the wrong button. So now I'm just doing something on Zoom. And so like you can do this. This is not hard. This is not hard. It's not rocket science. What I always encourage people is pick something that you're passionate talking about. Pick something that you want to get better at. Okay. Pick something that solves a real problem for people. And then for those people, you want to have the criteria. They got to have money. They got to be spending money to solve the problem. Those are two really big ones. And they got to be aware of problems. Okay. And they want to solve it. So when it comes to, I guess I'm wrapping this up, when it comes to credibility and authority, no one's going to show up and give it to you. You gotta, it is manufactured. Like it is something that is designed, and it's what we do, right? All marketing, advertising, self-selling, branding you design this architecture so that people are attracted to you. They want to work with you. They want to spend money with you to solve their problems in a faster time. And you know, you get a few people doing that. Next thing you know, you're like, wow, I'm good at this. I can do this. I believe in myself. And so sometimes belief has to come after the action. Belief is not something that, like, confidence comes when you're actually getting reference points, but you got to get started in order to get personal reference points with yourself. So anyhow, this is Ed O'Keefe. You can email me, like if you're interested in consulting for equity, you can email me at ed@consultingforequity.io, or you can text me at 512-543-1746. That's 512-543-1746. And if you want to work with me directly, you can just private message me. I do half-day consultations now. It's something we've really added into our framework. Really about being inspired. I mean, I was doing some consulting before, but then once Roland was like, you know, people are coming. Once people start asking you like, hey, Ed, I have a question or I need help. It's kind of you're doing everybody a favor by providing time to go deeper in their business rather than trying to solve problems for free in 30 seconds. You're just not like I look back on it, I was like, I'm not giving the potential client the opportunity for me to truly create value for them. So the way that we do that is through half-day consultations. So you could private message me there. You can text me on that one as well, 512-543-1746. Just put in the text what exactly you are looking for, and happy to help you. So hope you enjoyed this episode, and let's get after it. But don't wait. No one's going to give you permission. No one's going to show up tomorrow. No one's coming to your door. No one's, opening the floodgates. No one's going to make you a bestseller. No one's going to make you famous. No one's going to go find your best clients. I mean, you have to be the visionary and the implementer of that. And then you look for the shortcuts and the models. So have an amazing day, and I will talk to you soon.